Hello and welcome back to another one of our amazing, super informative, top of the line videos here on YouTube. I am Michael Brett Howard and I am joined today by our amazing, informative, and awesome business partner, Jason Palliser. How are you doing today, Jace?
Good. Today we get to talk about the ugly. We always talk about, hey, we can do this and we can do this and take vacations and drive around the U.S. and close deals in the RV like we do. But now we want to talk about, on the flip side of things, what can we do to protect ourselves? Because sometimes transactions don't go the way we want.
You mean that not everything in life happens exactly the way it should?
Yeah. Can you believe that? So what we want to do is prepare people for that.
Well, gosh darn, Jason, that sounds like a good idea. And to do that, we're going to talk about how to cancel a contract and get out of it because something didn't go as planned.
Correct.
Before I let Jason, again, open the floodgates, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This is a question we get asked a lot. Hey, I don't want to get in trouble. What should I do?
It's what keeps people on the sidelines, right, Mike?
Exactly.
Like, hey, I want to do it, but man, I don't want to make a mistake. So let's give them a little breathing room here and be able to breathe easy and say, okay, I can do this, and I have some levels of protection. So that's what this video is about. It's the other side of the real estate transaction that sometimes we need to utilize because it doesn't go the way that we want, right?
Yeah. So here's what you do. Sit back, do this, take a breath, and let Jason explain everything you need to know. There we go. Zen.
Zen-like, yes. So you have a real estate transaction. You're excited. Hey, I think I'm going to make 30 grand on this deal and blah, 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 and whatever it may be. But now all of a sudden things aren't going your way. It could be a multitude of things. So let's just throw a few things out there and then show you some things that you can do to protect yourself and give yourself the opportunity to exit the contract the way that you want. Okay. What stuff could happen? Maybe it's a deal you're trying to close on yourself for whatever reason, to fix and flip or to rent it out, and you find that there's some extra work or whatever that you weren't aware of. And you're like, hey, I want to get out of it. So that's one thing. Another thing could be, hey, I think I'm trying to get this deal done. And the financing terms, because maybe you don't have the cash, right? The financing terms aren't as favorable as you thought. Wow, I thought I could do this and get away with 5% down with a hard money lender, but they want 15% down. Or I thought it was going to be 11% interest rate and they want 14, whatever it may be. Right. And so the financing isn't what you want. Or maybe you've got it under contract and somebody else said that they want to buy the contract off you because you want to move on to another deal. And that end cash buyer, for whatever reason, who said that they're going to purchase it, now is moonwalking out of it and they're trying to back their way out of it. Right. So let's talk about some things about exiting the contract and also protecting yourself on the contract if you're wholesaling it as well. And, how do you insulate yourself if it's an actual wholesale transaction from somebody else trying to exit the contract on you on a whim? So I'll talk about that one first. So let's say you have a property under contract on 123 Candy Lane for $100,000. The homeowner's excited to work with you. You're solving their problems and you have it resold to an end investor and you're going to wholesale it for $130,000. So at a glance, you're making $30,000 on it, but your end cash buyer, for whatever reason, starts getting cold feet. Now, that would explode your stress level. I promised I was going to help this homeowner, and now my transaction's falling apart. I'm going to look bad. You're going to look bad to the title company, the homeowner. You're mad at the end cash buyer, whatever. Here's one way that you can try and insulate yourself from that. When your end cash buyer, maybe there's 3 people interested and you decide to accept whomever. Mr. Smith over here said he'd pay $130,000, right? One thing you can do is to see if they're serious or not and they're ready to close is that, hey, look, I have multiple offers on this property. So if you really want to buy it, I want to work with you. But what I'd like is to have you put down $2,000 non-refundable. I repeat, your end cash buyer, if you're going to wholesale it to somebody else, just say, I need you to put $2,000 down non-refundable. That now holds their feet to the fire. So if they say, hey, it works for me, you get the $2,000. Now, if they start to try and wiggle out of it, and again, we're going to talk about protections on the front end on the contract you write with the homeowner. We'll talk about that in a minute. But now you've, on the back end, whether you totally exit out the entire transaction itself, you've just made $2,000. Mike, that makes sense, right? From just protecting yourself from the end cash buyer. Require them to put bona fide cash down, non-refundable, $1,000, $2,000. Now you made money on the transaction no matter what. Make sense?
I mean, it not only are you protecting yourself and making money, but now you're finding a serious person that you could potentially do some business with. I mean, if they're willing to lose $2,000 on playing around,
right? It shows you that they're serious.
Exactly.
It shows you they're not fly by night. Especially if you have a new relationship with somebody who wants to start buying property from you. So that's just an easy way to protect yourself and make sure that they're serious. Okay. So
you won't even get into the contract. You won't have to get out of the bad contract because you'll never got into it. And if you do, you got $2,000.
Correct. Right. So that's on the back end if you're wholesaling the transaction. Now let's go to the front end of the transaction where you struck a deal with the homeowner, but now something popped up. Those 3 things that I said to start the video that could happen that could cause you to change your mind, right? So there's several things that you can do to potentially exit your way out of the contract. One of them is that you always put an inspection window in there. Okay? I always say the inspection window is your way to come back to the table with the property owner. Or if something pops up that you weren't aware of, that's what the inspection period is for. It's not what you thought, you can get out of the contract. So what you want to try and do is squeeze out the longest inspection window on a property that you can get. Okay. I like to go for 3 weeks and then back my way in 2 weeks. And some homeowners won't play ball with you. They'll say, well, 10 days or forget it, 7 days or forget it. You shouldn't need that long to get contractors to come look at the property. And, but you always want to get some sort of inspection window. That is your time to figure out whether or not you think this transaction is going to get to the finish line or not. Okay. So, put an inspection window in there. I try and get as long of an inspection window as I can. Now, one way, if for whatever reason, it doesn't matter to me on the initial, whatever the reason might be, the fix up was too much, or you tried to wholesale it and no one's interested. Or you decided maybe this area isn't, whatever the reason is, I don't care. If I have an inspection window, what I like to do is this. So maybe it was just that the end fix up was more than what you thought. Or a end cash buyer backs out. I just go back to them and say, hey, there's more work than I thought. So unless I can come down, in my example where I have it under contract for 100, maybe anybody that wants to buy it off of me, they're all offering 100 or 101. I'm like, there's no room to profit here. I'll go back to the homeowner and say, hey, there's a little more work than I thought. Is there any way we can come down to 90? If not, then I need to, during my inspection window, I need to exit the contract and just do a mutual release. Okay, so that is one way that you can do this. The other way is that they say yes and renegotiate and get it down to 90. Now those people that offered 100, where you had it under contract for 100, now all of a sudden there's 10 or 11 grand to be made. So you can go back and say, hey, there was more work than I thought. I need to come down to this number. I can send you over a new contract or an amendment stating that we've both agreed to go down in price. That's one way. The other way is simply just let the property owner know that based upon its current condition after inspection, that I simply can't do the contract. And because you have an inspection window in there, you can cite multiple reasons why. If you identified one extra item that needed to be fixed that you didn't on your initial review of the property, then you have the right to go back and just simply ask for a mutual release. Does that make sense, Mike?
It does. In fact, we have a very simple purchase and sales agreement, 2 pages, and that verbiage is in there that allows you to inspect the property. And if it's not as it should be, you essentially have both agreed that you are allowed to walk away from it.
Correct. That's what the inspection window is for, folks. So the most important, one of the most important items on the contract is an inspection window. And the buyer has the right to close in whatever entity it chooses, just in case you decide to sell it to somebody else. You have that verbiage in there, then you can close in another entity, which is your end cash buyer, right? And so those are things that are important to me on the contract. So I usually use my inspection window to find out everything that I need to about the property so that we could say, hey, we're good to go. Or if in this situation, we can, what this video is for, is get out of the contract. How we do that is absolutely, without a doubt, trying to get the longest inspection window that we can, because I can come in and say, hey, the walls are blue and I didn't really budget in for painting. So unless you can come down on price, I need to exit this contract. And then what you would do, and you can find this online. We have these contracts as well. If you need help in the comments, just let us know. Because we have pretty much every conceivable contract you would ever need for a real estate transaction. And one of those is a mutual release. Okay. So you may want to find go on Google and find a mutual release, which means that, hey, I'm releasing from the contract, you're releasing, because we found some new information, that doesn't allow this transaction to close the way that we originally intended. So this is the way that you can position yourself, if you write the contract the right way, to renegotiate with the property owner, for whatever reason. And then also on top of that, just be prepared with the mutual release. Because look, 19 out of 20 contracts are going to close. It is what you thought it was. But there's always going to be stuff that pops up. One thing that I've learned over the years, if I'm closing on an asset and it's one that I think that I'm going to keep, if I'm going to wholesale it, it's on my end buyer to do any inspections that they want, right, during my inspection period. But if it's one I'm going to keep, I always hire a company to run a camera line through the sewer. Because if you find out that you have a faulty sewer line, that could explode your costs on the property by 10, 15 grand. And I don't want to fall into that oopsie. I've already laid on that sword 2 times in my 25-year career. So we always get the sewer scoped. Okay. I'm just trying to help you out. But how do we get out of a contract? We find everything that we need to find in our inspection window and we renegotiate the price down, or we send a mutual release over. So we can get in and out of a contract because we wrote our contracts properly. So use this to your advantage. Again, this is the side of the real estate business where the transaction isn't what you thought it was. So we just want to position you to be in a spot to be able to exit the contract without having to spend a bunch of money to do it.
Yeah, save this video, folks. Save it legitimately save it, because you're going to run across a deal that you're like, it's going
to happen.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't want you to be scared. We don't want this to be the singular reason that you sit on the sidelines because you're scared. Well, what if I do something wrong? And it's funny, and I'll say this, and we'll end the video this way. We're teaching you how to be in a position to exit the contract without having to get a skin knee over it, right? Losing money or losing thousands of dollars.
There you go. There's the one, losing thousands of dollars.
Yeah, we don't want you to. I don't want you to walk around worried about that. That's why you write a contract properly. Okay. Yep. So just hear me when I say that. That can't be the singular reason that you sit on the sidelines, because you can write a contract properly to get out of it if things aren't what you thought they were going to be. Period. End of story. Do not let that be the reason. And again, hit us up. Schedule a call with us. Talk to us. We're ready to help you.
Absolutely. Save this video. Use it when you're doing your next contract, and we will see you on the next video of No Flipping Excuses.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye now.
Hey, Jason Palliser here from the No Flipping Excuses channel. So just for being on our channel, here's what we're going to do. Go to www.theflippingbook.com, where we're going to break down for you and give you for $7. If you go to Amazon, it's $24.95. You're going to save $17 and get an instant download of our wholesaling book, where we break down how to get leads and deals under contract that other investors don't even know about, and get smoking hot deals on the back end, and then how we run circles around our competition and how you can close your first deal or start stacking on top of that. So you just need to go to theflippingbook.com, and we put it together for you, and it's our gift to you for $7, not $24.95, just for being on our channel. So check it out.